It's that time. Woohoo! Hi. I see some stragglers over there in the other room. You should be making your way over here. How many of you had a good time this weekend? So one of the fun parts is actually seeing the pitches on Friday and then to see what actually gets built and how much happens and changes over that weekend. The first thing I want to do is I want to, because this was an incredibly well-run event. I go to lots of these. This was incredibly well-run. And I want all of the organizers to stand wherever they are. We've got MJ over here. We got Emily. We got Meg. We got June. Helen's back there. If anyone wants to be tweeting, which we hope you are, here's the password to get on. So basically, we are Mozilla. Okay. And I'm going to turn this over to MJ, who is going to thank our sponsors. And just to let you know, this is being filmed live right now. So that's partly why you're going to see all of us behind this, because that's where the screen is. So that's why people aren't kind of moving out in front of the screen.
All right, thank you, Katrina. Can we just give Katrina a round of applause for all of her hard work, too? So it's certainly amazing to have all of you here to actually, for the organizers, at least have this event kind of actually happen and be in the middle of it. So rewarding for me. Sort of sorry to see it come to a conclusion, but happy to be able to wash this shirt tonight. So. Let's just quickly thank our sponsors. We had the Ontario Centres of Excellence as a premier sponsor. The working group, which is sort of an institution here for startup weekends. So thank you to them. At the platinum level, BiblioCommons, we have a judge from BiblioCommons. We have mentors and participants, so really happy to have them along. CBASE, or the Center for Business and Social Entrepreneurship at the University of Guelph, along with the University of Guelph Library. I twisted a few arms there. The U of T libraries, so all three campuses, main campus, Scarborough, and Mississauga, as well as a college, main college here in Toronto, Seneca, joined us at the gold level. Ontario Library Association, Laurier, Dysart & Jones, Third Way Think, also gold. And at the silver level, Dalhousie, their Faculty of Management and their School of Information Management, and the Toronto Public Library. So it's just been fantastic to have sponsorship from across the spectrum, libraries in all different sectors. And then this wouldn't have happened without all the community help as well. So we definitely want to give shout outs to the Health Science Information Consortium of Toronto, HackerU, who's provided some great space for us Friday and Saturday, Taylor UX, again, for mentorship, just been fantastic. Matthew from HTML5 over here doing our streaming and doing a lot of tech stuff that I've never seen before. So, yeah, thank you, Matthew, for sure. And our community sponsors, Mars, Cobalt, Mesh, and Vitamin Water, too, which is sort of unique. So I'm going to pass it back to Katrina.
So basically, how many of you have been to a startup weekend before this one? Oh, so for a lot of you, this was a new one. So one thing is that there are a number of these happening literally all over the world. I think there are well over a dozen that are happening like right now as we're speaking, or in different time zones as the evening is going to go on. Essentially, Startup Weekend's mission is just to really to inspire change in entrepreneurs' lives. There have been people who have quit their jobs Monday morning and started companies. It happens. So let me ask you this question: how many of you met somebody this weekend that you didn't know before that you think you're going to stay in contact with? So like most of the room went up. Yes. So that's a big part of what this is about. It's really about making connections, meeting people, as well as kind of working on the projects. We couldn't do this on Startup Weekend's global level without these sponsors. So Google gives us a lot of support, Amazon Web Services.co, and then Coca-Cola. And then specifically for the EDU vertical, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has given a nice grant to be able to keep this program running. So I wanted to actually just do a big round of applause for both our local sponsors and for our global sponsors. For those of you who were not with us this weekend, this is what we did. So Friday, people got up, they gave 1 minute, literally 60 seconds or less pitches. They had an idea, and then we voted, and then we narrowed that down. We ended up having we ended up with 11 teams, and they formed essentially they coalesced. Again, people who didn't know each other before came together to work together. And so teams have developers, they have designers, they have librarians, and they have biz dev folks. And then the whole weekend, the 54 hours, essentially what they're doing is they're building an MVP. So it's really about what can you build in 54 hours, and so we're about to find out. Okay. This is how each of the presentations will be judged. This is slightly different from regular Startup Weekend. Usually Startup Weekend has customer validation, business model, and the product execution. This one has the additional equal weight about having library impact. So as you're watching, think about, is this something that you think will actually impact libraries? And libraries can mean anything from public libraries to K-12 libraries to higher ed libraries. So it's a whole range of libraries. There are some amazing prizes. I'm not actually going to read them all, but we have first, second, and third prize, and then there's an organizer's prize. These are also on the website, but a phenomenal job of some really nice prizes. And many of these prizes are really about how to take the company that gets launched here and take it to the next steps. We have amazing, fabulous judges, and I'm actually slightly oddly, just because of the way we are streaming, and I'm going to have each of the judges come up here so that the folks at home can actually see who they are. They're just briefly going to say who they are and what they do outside of this. So we'll just go in alphabetical order, so we'll start with Chris. Yes, that'd be great. Perfect.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Eben. I'm a partner at the Working Group, the company you saw in here earlier, and also, I guess, the guy that helped bring Startup Weekend to Toronto about 4 years ago. So it's great for me to see this, because usually I'm the guy organizing it and doing all this stuff, and finally we're in a place where we can put other great organizing teams together. So congratulations to the team here. Looks like you did an amazing job, and I'm happy to be a judge. Good luck on the presentations.
Hi everyone, I'm Candice, and I'm the general manager of Wattpad. How many of you have heard of Wattpad? Okay, lots of you. Awesome. That's why I'm here, I guess. So for those of you who don't know, Wattpad is one of the world's largest storytelling communities. We have readers and writers who love to write everything from fiction, nonfiction, fan fiction. The three things that are really different about Wattpad: we're mobile, so it's serial reading and writing. It's very social, and it's mobile as well, which I just said. Great, thanks.
I'm Beth Jefferson. I'm co-founder of BiblioCommons, which started as a startup in the library space like you many years ago. It seems it takes a long time in the library world, but it's been really fun to be part of this and see your ideas.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle. I'm with the Investment Accelerator Fund that's managed by Mars, and I have probably one of the best jobs in the world. I get to invest in great early stage companies that are based in Ontario, and we're typically the first institutional investor that comes into the company. So we have more than 80 companies now in our portfolio. We have a new fund to invest in what we called youth run companies, so founding companies that are founded by entrepreneurs who are 29 and under come in because we're looking for some great deals.
Hi, I'm David Weinberger. I'm co-director of the Harvard Library Innovation Lab. I've been a marketing VP and consultant to tech companies and to startups for a long time. I am a University of Toronto grad school graduate, as is my wife. And one of the companies I spent a lot of time with in early stages was OpenText.
So as you can see, our organizers did an amazing job grabbing some absolutely fabulous judges. Speaking of kind of the extra help that we had come in, if you are a mentor, raise your hand or stand wherever you are. And how many of you who are on teams, how many of you got great help from a mentor this weekend? And the mentors really are what really make this all work because they bring in all of their insight, their experience, and really kind of help the teams push things forward and figure out what questions that they need to be asking. And we love the fact that they're giving up some of their time in the weekend to spend time with our teams. So this is what's going to happen next. So each of the teams we're going to go in the order that's up here. Each team has 5 minutes, and we time that, so we keep that to the 5 minutes. We've got a timekeeper up here, so when you're going, if you're nervous, if you've got someone, you can kind of see how much time you have left. And then we have 2 to 3 minutes after that, where the judges will ask them questions for clarification or just additional things they want to know more about. When that Q&A starts, and this is important, when that Q&A starts, the next team that is supposed to be going should be up here, over here, and you should be lining up and getting yourself set up in order to go next. And that will actually kind of keep things flowing, and we'll make sure that the tech is all working. So with that, we literally are going to go ahead and start. So we are going to start with Space Ballet, and I think they're actually ready to go.
All right. Hello, everybody. We're Space Ballet, and over the last 24 hours, we conducted a survey and got 130 student respondents regarding their study habits and library usage. And what we found is that 74% of the students' optimal study space is on campus, and 53% of that in the library. We also found that almost every student has had a hard time trying to find study space, 95% varying in degrees. And that caused about a 5 to 20 minute time waster trying to find the space, and it's just waste time. There are a few services that try to tackle this problem of study wayfinding, like UTSC Study Space and McMaster, but they don't have the data or execution to completely combat the problem. UTSC is solely for the Scarborough campus here in Toronto, and McMaster only regulates the computer availability in libraries. So we also found that 66% of our survey would use this kind of application, and 21% said maybe, so they're almost there. So our customer segments kind of has a two-tier. The first is the students, who are the end users, and then also the post-secondary libraries. So the value that we provide to students is we're better use of their time, so they're not wasting it trying to find study space. We're reducing their stress of having to find it, and we're also improving their study habits by helping them find their optimal study space. For the value that we're providing to libraries is that we're increasing the use of on-campus resources, therefore increasing the value of the space itself. And we are also better, we can provide them with data analytics to allow them to do better investments in future study spaces. So this is our product. It's Space Ballet, and it's a study space locator. And the method that we gather information is both a Wi-Fi and a user opt-in check-in. So this is a general template.
Yeah, when the user actually first opens the app, they would see this if they're a U of T student. So the first thing that you'll see is there's a list of all the libraries within U of T, and each one is color-coded by green, yellow, and red. So green means available spaces, yellow means limited spaces, and red is extremely limited spaces. In this case, if I'm clicking onto Robarts Library and I want to know more information about that, I'm provided with peak hours during the day during that week, so I can kind of optimize my best time to go. But in this case, I can see that on floor 5, it's green, so that there's probably available spaces. When I click on floor 5, I'm given a heat map, so I can find the accurate area of where there's available spaces. So we actually, in the 24 hours, we were able to make a rough demo, and I'll try to get it working here. So as you can see, it's linked to my iPhone, and we created a web app just showing off the basic functionality. I'm not trying to hide against this, but yeah, it's actually working on, and we actually have a link up, so we can start testing it out.
So our rollout strategy for this product is to first pilot test on a floor in the Dana Porter Library in the University of Waterloo, which has 10 floors of study space available to it. And through this beta test, we can fix any bugs or glitches that could come up using it, and we also form a solid user-student base for it. Once we form that user base, we're going to tap into it and validate our revenue model, which could either be a ad-based or marginal tuition increase. And then from that, we can scale to the entire campus and then further our scope to other campuses. So our cost, initial fees would just be marketing to other universities, development fees, legal fees, and the ongoing would be marketing to other schools. And if we wanted to integrate it to the library technology, we would have to do a bit of training and informational sessions with the librarians themselves. So we have 2 revenue streams, one being from the post-secondary, so we plan on doing a marginal 15-cent tuition increase to every single student, and also a monthly subscription base to the university itself, so that it can receive our data and better invest in future. And then advertising as well. So if we had U of T, we would, with a 15% or 50-cent marginal increase, we would accrue $26,000. If we scaled it to every single university in Ontario, we would accrue $82,000.
Down to the wire. Yeah, stay here. Okay, so now we're gonna have we're gonna turn it over to our judges, and they will ask questions. If the rest of the team wants to come up behind them, they're also welcome to do that. Meanwhile, I need the next team on deck, and I'd also like to get the bike project as well. We're just gonna do some tech checks.
Are these okay? It's on now. Okay, nice job. My question is really focused on the user acquisition side of things, because this product doesn't do anything if you don't have everyone in the library actually checking in and giving you the information you need. So that, to me, looks like your biggest challenge. I'd like to hear how you've looked to solve that challenge.
Well, to begin with, I'm a University of Waterloo student, so we're planning on developing another layer to it, an administrative layer, so that if we don't have every person using the app, the admin can create a layer of available or not, so that the students that are using it can still see the availability, and it's accurate still.
As a follow-on, you said that there are 2 ways of knowing the current usage of the library. One is opt-in, and the other is Wi-Fi. Could you explain the Wi-Fi a bit more?
So if a device is connected to the Wi-Fi, it can give a general idea of how many people are in that area. So then knowing the occupancy of that area, we have 20 seats available and there's 15 people connected to the Wi-Fi, we can make a general assumption of how much space is available.
So how are you going to convince the schools to add something to the tuition fees? Who do you have to deal with there? And 15 cents is pretty minimal, so I'm not sure they'll necessarily do it. Talk me through the thinking there.
So in our study that we conducted, we also tried to validate what kind of fees that the students would want to pay. Not many students were interested in buying the app, but a large majority said that they'd be willing to pay that just marginal they will never see it in their tuition, just 15 cents. So that was our validation for it. It would be a little bit of a longer process, obviously, to jump through the hoops of the university and things like that. But that was just for the university students themselves. That's what they preferred.
Two things. Did you consider public libraries as well as academic libraries? I'm curious. And also, did you consider a sale to the library as opposed to a tuition increase? They have budgets to draw from.
Public libraries, yes, we could use it. The users aren't a market, like a niche, I suppose. It would be harder to target them to use the app to download it. As a university student, it would be very easy and centralized to get them on board. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Did you consider a fee payable by the library itself, the library system?
Yes, we were considering doing like a white label. So for each university, we can provide a separate app that each one would have the university's logo and brand on it, and then also targeted ads from that area as well. So.
This is a softball. So in the slide that you passed over because you were getting clapped at your 5-minute time, I said something about a study buddy. Do you want to? Here's your chance.
Yep. So that was a future opportunities. One of them was the study buddy community. So you could add friends and find people that also have similar study habits as you or similar classes. We also wanted to partner with Mapped In, which does indoor 3D mapping and wayfinding in convention centers and malls, so that students can not only find where available study space is, but they can get directions to the exact cubicle where it is. And also, the final opportunity was moving to parking garages and malls so that people could better find parking spaces in garages.
Sure. Did you consider a fee for booking the space?
Yeah, we did. We just feel that it might be, yeah, it would be hard to enforce.
We've talked about that, and yes, the enforcement would probably be the biggest thing, and the idea that you're already putting a great amount of tuition into it, and just to show the social aspect of it was tough to swallow.
Next up, we have sticky bookmarks. And then I'd like to have the bike project, if they can come up over here while they're waiting. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes, so we were trying to figure out where the opera was coming from, so apparently we have tracked that down, so it might take us a minute to kind of get that organized. Just for everybody who's presenting, this is a chin mic, so you just want to make sure you keep it up to your chin, and then you'll be good to go in terms of being able to hear you. Exactly. It may feel like it's really close, but it's good. Okay, while we wait for that, does anyone want to share something that they actually got out of this weekend, like something that they learned or something they'll use after this? Or an experience you had? Yes. Yes, no, so
Daniel Wong 今次咧佢點咗呢一首音樂 Snowflake， 咁即係咧嚟自電影愛情故事 Love Story 裏面嘅呢一首 Snowflake 係 Francis Lai 嘅作品。Francis Lai 呢一位音樂家咧喺1932年出生於法國嘅尼斯，佢自60年代初期開始咧就從事電影音樂嘅作曲同埋指揮嘅工作。1966年佢為電影《男歡女愛》編寫嘅配樂咧就贏得佢個人嘅第一座奧斯卡金像獎。男歡女愛即係 A Man and a Woman。到咗1970年咧，佢第二度獲獎咧就係呢一部電影《愛情故事》。Francis Lai 嘅音樂創作深具旋律性嘅美感，所作嘅音樂咧好多都係好抒情而優美嘅曲調，而最突出嘅地方就佢能夠找住情感嘅弱點，配合故事嘅情節，所以佢嘅音樂咧相當之令人感動同埋印象深刻。抒情歌曲當然係佢嘅專長啦，首首都可以打動人，所以 Francis Lai 嘅作品可以講係將法國人嘅浪漫發揮到極致。
Test。
難怪咧好多人都好中意佢嘅音樂。好，我哋欣賞一下佢呢一首嚟自1970年咧，佢為電影愛情故事 Love Story 所寫嘅呢一首 Snowflake。
Test. Can you guys still hear music? No?
We can keep going.
Hopefully we don't get banned from YouTube. YouTube, please don't ban us.
All right, I am going to turn the time over to Sticky Notes.
I'm sorry.
Sticky Bookmark.
Hello everyone. Is that a decent sound? Okay. Up. Hello. Okay. All right, I'll try to project then. So our team is called Stucky Bookmarks, and basically, to give a brief description of what our project actually is, I guess a couple weeks ago we decided that there wasn't really any way of being able to track erotic material in books, specifically by page number and scene. So we decided to create this project, and which is what we did in the last 48 hours. We created essentially a gigantic database which is crowdsourced by users, so anyone could come and log in or check out what books are available and see what tags other people have left. So they'll look at a book and see on such and such page number, Mary and Jack have relations or something like that. And we have so we have a creative tagging system, a whole bunch of different ways to. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so well, we could actually walk you through just a brief demo of how it works. It's a very straightforward app. Any user can log in, add a book that they want to add to the database, and and then they have we have the option of being able to add scenes by chapter and page. So we thought this would be just a fun way to engage people who aren't, I guess, regular readers. I think and we were able to pull from Google Books, who also they're able to give out their Google API, so we could check out the previews. But I guess we'll just talk a little bit about how what our marketing strategy is on this. But
yeah, we actually have a marketing strategy. We did some market research, and the initial project of looking at who customers might be was difficult because it's hard to get people to admit to using a product like this. I did try doing a poll on my Facebook account, and 2 people replied. So we took a new approach, which was to look at examples of enthusiasm. For example, your reaction to this display right now, I would take as a good sign of a potential market. Every conversation that I've had with anyone about this, people have been very enthusiastic. They've been, eager to contribute book titles, and as soon as we got them talking about new book titles, more came to their mind, and then more, and it was a fun conversation to have. So that to me is evidence of a potential market. We also are posting it to Reddit, And yeah, I forget the rest of. Oh, and it does turn out there is a rumor circulating that I wasn't able to verify, but that romance is one of the most largely circulated genres in public libraries. If you go to something like Goodreads, the romance genre tends to be it is the largest genre in Goodreads. So all of these are indications of a potential market. And then in terms of our business model, we're really just looking for affiliated marketing. That's the plan. So we will link out to independent publishers or out to Amazon, Indigo, and something. Ideally, we would like to link to public libraries to their catalog, so a user could come to this, find a book that they want, and it could direct them to the public library catalog, and they could search the catalog, get it from their local library, and that's the gist of it. Yeah. It is live now. It's stickybookmarks.co. You can all add books, add them as you please. You have to create, yeah.
So now we'll turn it over to the judges to ask some questions.
So, can you tell me a bit where the genesis of this idea came from, and what problem you're solving for a library?
So, thinking about fun ways to get people interested in reading, this seemed like one of the most fun and interactive ways to. Well, we were having a conversation about something like this. I mean, I know it exists in visual forms. I won't name names, but if you Google, you'll find them. And we just had the idea of bringing it to more of a book format, because there's nothing really sort of like that out there. You could search for books, but you can't really search inside of books. So that actually brings us to our scalability part, which is potential for not just using sticky bookmarks for, adult material, but anything that people want to bookmark. Yeah.
This is more of a comment or a piece of advice. When it's hard to get feedback from people going out on the street and talking to them in person, running AdWords or Facebook ads, things like that are a great way, especially in an industry like this. I don't know if you can call this an industry, but if you think porn, which this isn't, there's a lot of stuff going on online, and ads are a big part of that. So good for anybody to think about when you want feedback, and you can do that for quite cheaply over the course of a weekend.
Thanks.
Working with public libraries in online catalogs, I can think of a lot of potential problems, but I also can think of a big new opportunity that's basically the flip side of what you proposed here. So there are people that are searching for that content, and there's also a big chunk of people that are deliberately searching not for that content. And public libraries want to be able to facilitate both of those transactions, and I think there's a way that you could flip this very easily with your tagged content to provide that.
Yeah, so just to talk back to that, one idea of moving forward was to host our own API that provides this information that other people can plug into to filter out results, just like you said. So yeah, that's something we could do moving forward.
So I just added a sticky bookmark to John Updike's Couples, but of course I made it up because
Sure you did.
I am in your database. So first of all, I want to make sure that you, in fact, will have a very large privacy notice that you will not sell my data to anybody. Second of all, what are you going to do about bogus, bad, like the one I just entered, which is totally made up? And third of all, I think maybe the hardest thing, which is what are you going to do about the multiple editions of every book, including online editions? Are you going to have to specify which edition, which year, which publisher, hardback, paperback, et cetera?
Okay, so to answer your first question about bogus stuff, so the premise is it will be completely, because right now it's all just crowdsourced, anyone could go in and edit or even delete comments, but we don't want to start off with that open power like right off the bat. So we want to take a more of a Stack Overflow approach, whereas the user has to build up the reputation, get to a certain number of points before they have moderating privileges, and then in that way the entire community is self-run by users. So that will take care of bogus content because it's constantly, you're in this circle where users are always the ones that are controlling what is going down the screen. To answer your second question about multiple editions, so we approached one of our ideas, well, just to get to this demo day was creating sort of a plus or minus on the page numbers. So if someone added a scene, we definitely have chapters, which is fine, but then page numbers, yeah, it will differ across different mediums. So going forward, I believe that probably the best thing to do would create multiple records underneath one head model. So you have the core data where you have like the book name, author, and everything, and then you have multiple models underneath it which have the different ISBNs and editions. And for audiobooks, we would also include time as well, like for the blind, I guess.
So our next group up, we have the Bike Project. And while they are beginning, can I have Razor Reader also come up on deck, and we'll get your tech set up.
All right, so we're here to disrupt the current way of studying, reading, retaining information in the library. We are the Bike Project. So before I start pitching, I want you guys to be mindful of what you're doing with your hands, feet, if you're moving it, stretching on your chair, be mindful of that. We'll get back to that later on today. So the Bike Project, BIKE, Believing in Kinesthetic Education. Hear this, I'm a university student. I sit in the library, not doing work, of course, for 45 hours a week on average, and I'm told to cover like 700 pages for a test or whatnot, but every half hour I get up to discover another bathroom on another floor in Dana Porter Library at the University of Waterloo. This totally happens, I'm not joking you. And I'm always fidgeting. And that's 80% of people too. They're always fidgeting while moving. I mean, sitting and studying.
Now, very often there are negative connotations that come with fidgeting, right? So often when people fidget, people see it as a bad thing. They think, oh, this person has ADHD, they're not paying attention, they're not focused, they're distracted. But there are actually a lot of really good things about fidgeting. So fidgeting is very positive. It can actually help people focus. If you're focusing, or if you're fidgeting while doing something, it can actually improve your cognitive focus of something that you're actually working on mentally. It can also improve your circulation. So if you're fidgeting, good for your extremities, right? Also, and this is fidgeting burns calories. So if you're fidgeting, you're actually burning 54% more calories than you would if you were sitting still. So it's a little bit, but you're burning, right? In addition to this, fidgeting is often really positive for kinesthetic and tactile learners, right? So it improves their experience in learning and in cognitive gains. Now, what does this mean for libraries? Libraries are often trying to develop and facilitate spaces that are great for learning, right? Similar to the space that we're in right here, we have been working in a space for the last 2 days that has just been amazing for learning. But what we want to do is kind of bring in fidgeting and make fidgeting empowering, make it something that libraries can use and basically use this to improve learning experiences. So what we've done is we've created a physical tool to empower fidgeting. We have called it the Fidget. The Fidget is going to be a small, lightweight product that can slide underneath of a desk, right? That would be made of silent materials. So it would mean fidgeting that's not tapping on a table, that's not clicking a pen, that's not tapping your foot. It would be multifunctional. The top layer would be pedalers. These would be able to facilitate and support the use of basically like plantar and dorsal flexion. So tapping your foot like this versus tapping your foot like this, right? On the other side, we would have rollers. Think of like an abacus made of awesome rubber balls that move around, where you can roll your feet on it. So this actually supports the 6 different flexion movements that your knee does, right? So rolling forward, rolling to the side, left and right, and in circles, okay? We have some lovely mocks here, some made by, who printed this?
MadeWorks. So thank you, Jonathan.
That was great. Thanks to MadeWorks for making our 3D model here.
So our business model is very simple. We'll be selling initially to universities. So our first we'll be selling initially to University of Waterloo. That's our pilot project, and we'll sell it at approximately $60 to $80, and then they could distribute it to their library system, and then they could sell it as a service with to their students. So our initial market is the university. So there's around 98 universities within the university of in Canada, and we are planning to sell around 10 to 20 fidgets within these libraries. And then from this, we'll then target next potential targets, for example, the public libraries, college libraries, special libraries, and then head into the business workforce, and also at homes. So with competitors, the main competitors would be the cycling desk and the treadmill desk. And the biggest difference between this is that they're going to be focusing on incorporating an actual workout with their while studying and while studying. So what we're trying to do with the fidget is that you're already doing fidgeting, and we're trying to incorporate it and facilitate it. And we're going to do this by making sure it's a low price, it's noiseless, it's compact, it's intuitive, and it's very easy to do.
So we had over 80 people involved in this process, and 94% of them wanted the fidget. Quoting someone in here, David, if you're in the house, you said if I made this today, you'd buy this tomorrow for $50. So I'm expecting that at the end of this. The next next steps we're fidget. Keep calm and fidget on.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to turn it over to the judges.
Hi guys, I think that's great. I'd love to try it right now. So
Did you want to use the one we made with our dollar store stuff?
I can try it after. But I have a question. Why would you focus on I know that we're here for Library Weekend, but this seems like for the corporate market an incredibly good fit too. Have you thought about, when you would approach that market?
For sure. I think being current undergraduate students at the library, and I'm gonna graduate soon, and I don't know how I study. And I think tackling this problem from the library perspective, and especially for a crowd that, not enough research is done on that age gap between 20 to 30-year-olds, and movement and incorporating that, it'd be a great pilot site to start off with, and then perhaps once we actually develop the actual product, maybe in a year or two, take it to the corporate world. We did get some traction from the city councilors as well, so they want to move it into the region office and whatnot. So yeah, maybe in the future.
And one other thing, have you thought of standing desks as your competition?
Yes, it was one of our competitions or one of our competitors that we did take into consideration. It's just people who have used it have said I used it for just a couple hours. So it's how long can you actually stand and do work? And it's a trend, but it's kind of there's a learning curve of trying to incorporate that and walk while doing work. But this is natural. How many of you were moving your feet while listening to us pitch? There we go. We have all these hands in the crowd. So it's a natural, it's intuitive, and there you go.
In your customer validation work, it sounds like you talked to people who fidget. Did you actually did you talk to your actual buyers though? Did you talk to a buyer at a library in the university? Because to Candace's point, I think you'd probably be much better suited to pilot this in the corporate space where there's different types of budgets and different types of considerations for people that are actually sitting all day long.
For sure. So as a University of Waterloo student, I work closely with the librarian, and I have an in. Marion Davis is one of the librarians at the school, and right now they have a budget that they're working on renovating library spaces. So instead of just buying furniture from IKEA and making the space look pretty, be innovative. Incorporate this and provide facilitate the fidgeting, be inclusive with learning styles and different ways of it so students are more productive with their time.
Really nice presentation.
Thank you.
The name is, I think, a hangover from your original pitch, and probably you'd want to get fidget in the name. But I'm actually a little confused. Are you making a health claim for fidgeting? Why do people need help fidgeting? Is there resistance in those? Are you saying better calf muscles? Why do we need help fidgeting?
I think that the argument for developing something like this, I mean, yeah, people are going to, the thing is people are going to fidget regardless. Fidgeting in a library can be problematic and annoying to a lot of people. So if I'm stressed out and I'm studying in one cubicle, let's say, and I'm working across from someone else and I'm fidgeting by tapping my foot, maybe hitting my foot on the side of this table, that can be frustrating in an environment that shouldn't necessarily be kind of like that. Alternatively, if you're sitting at a group table working, you might be playing footsies with the person across from you. Having some sort of tool that kind of localizes fidgeting makes it an enjoyable experience. While not playing footsies with the person across from you. Can theoretically be beneficial in that sense.
So, quick comment: if you're serious about this, and it looks like you've spent a fair bit of time, what you may want to do is run a small crowdfunding campaign to see if anyone's going to buy it. And if you get uptake, then you've got a great set of early adopters that you can do a ton of market research on. So I know a lot of companies will do that. If their campaign's successful, then they just really do a lot of research on why you're using this, who are you, how much would you pay if it, were next step, not a crowdfunding campaign, that sort of thing.
For sure. Thank you.
Next up, we're going to have Raise a Reader. And while they are about ready to present, can I get the Maker Library to come up and do a tech check?
I'd like to start today's presentation with some somber news. In the course of the last 10 years, the number of students in grade 3 who report that they enjoy reading has fallen from 75% to 50%. We know this is a problem. You don't rebound from that, but there's an easy solution. Studies show that there is a positive correlation between parents who read aloud to their kids before they enter school and those kids going on to enjoy reading for the rest of their life. So all we need to do is support parents in reading to their kids before the age of 5. And who better to provide that support than the public library? What we want to do is take all of the great early literacy resources that the library has and put them online so that parents can access them in convenient and accessible ways. We want to create a one-stop shop for early literacy information for parents. And so enter Raise a Reader, name pending. Okay, so we have built a web app that supports parents in reading to their children before the age of 5 by connecting them with the resources at their local library. We have identified that we have 2 customer segments. We have parents with children 0 to 5, and we have the public library systems. There's 2 different kinds of value propositions for these customers. For parents, what we're offering are free, curated book lists by age and interest of the child, an opportunity to celebrate reading milestones that you achieve with your children when you read aloud, a history of all the books you've read together, and a convenient way to access a children's librarian online. For public libraries, the value prop is parents can now connect from book lists directly into the library's catalog system, placing holds. They can also get access or information pushed to them about the story times that are happening at their local library. And we're also utilizing the children's librarian's expertise from behind the desk at the library. So, we had some hypotheses before we started building our MVP that we had to test. So we created a digital survey on SurveyMonkey. We had 185 parents respond to it. And we also went out onto the street, but as yesterday was quite chilly, not surprisingly, we had a hard time finding parents. Anyways, what we have confirmed is that of our wish list of items that would features of our product, we were able to validate some, and others we want to continue doing work on to validate. It was kind of surprising that only 12% of parents said that they would go to their local library to get help if they were having challenges reading one-on-one with their kids. But this is actually an opportunity for libraries. We're going to show you how with our demo. Okay, so here's a demo of Raise a Reader. The parent, Deborah, has signed in with her TPL library card, and she had already created 3 profiles for her children, Jeff, Lisa, and Bobby. So Lisa's profile here shows that she is currently working on a book list called Animal Books for 2-year-olds. And when we click on that book list, this is Lisa's reading career. She has had 49 unique books read to her. That totals 350 some pages. And she has a favorite book called Matthew and the Midnight Tow Truck that's been read to her 25 times, which is interesting because I'm sure her mom thinks it's been read to her maybe 500 times. But this gives mom a chance to keep track. So I was actually just speaking to Lisa. She just tweeted that, that her mom just finished reading this book, My Friend Rabbit, which is good because it's due tomorrow at the Parliament Library. So let's give Lisa a check mark. And a round of applause. So Lisa's just got herself the Caterpillar badge, which we're very proud of her for. Other things that Deborah, the mom, can access on Lisa's profile page would be things mentioned before, an opportunity to ask questions to the librarian, some questions asked already by other parents, and as well access to storytime information and the apps that are recommended for toddlers. So, what we plan to do with this product is something different than what the competitors are doing. So these are the competitors we identified. What we're offering is an early literacy product that is specific. Hi, Beth. What we're offering is an early literacy product that is specifically for parents. We're not trying to do all the great things that Bibliocommons does, obviously, or Goodreads, but this product is free for parents, regardless of whether their library system has a license with us or not. So how do we plan to make money? Well, we plan to go in cheap and get it everywhere. So we actually have devised... Buy now!
So judges are allowed to ask about their revenue models. And so we'll turn it over to the judges.
I will ask that question then. Can you tell us a little bit about your business model for this?
Absolutely. So what we would like to do is we're selling it as an e-resource to library managers who are in charge of e-resource budgets. It would be an annual license that libraries would pay, and it would give unlimited access to library card holders. Yep, and it's cheap. And so, for example, like if we sold to every large system in North America, that would be annual revenues of $250,000. And that's just the large, which are about 100. There's 100 or so large systems.
Great, so I'm very interested in this product since I'm a mom of 2 kids under 5.
Woohoo!
And I guess my question for you is, why do you think moms don't read to their kids?
Well, it's a very good question, and one that I don't think our survey got to the heart of, because we were using our personal networks, which would have included educators, librarians, and that sort of thing. It's a really complex question because sometimes you have to go into reasons like maybe in certain cultures it's not common. Maybe they don't publish books in all languages for children. And then I think sometimes, and what we're hoping is the reason people would use our product is that parents have challenges getting their kid to sit still and listen to a story, to get engaged with a story. And so we're hoping that we can connect them in with questions other parents have asked. They can talk directly with librarians to get tips, and just to make reading more fun to do at home and less of a chore for the parents. Because sometimes I think it can feel like a chore.
Yeah, because I think my comment would be, I'd really dig really deep into the why, because I think this is really interesting and looks neat, but I'm not sure for me personally it addresses the whys of time, ease, you know, those pieces. But what it does address is great suggestions and community. So,
well, I can speak to friends of mine who have small kids that live near me, and I drop books off to them all the time because the moms have newborns and they're like, we don't have time to go to the library. Yeah, that's right.
I've got a comment that's kind of similar to that, and it feels like you're kind of potentially addressing two different things here, and therefore potentially not addressing either of them. I really like what I saw, and you guys did a great job over the weekend, but getting to the root of the problem you're trying to solve here, because is the problem you're trying to solve that people don't leverage the resources of their library well enough, so engagement with your library for those parents that aren't reading enough at home or don't have the resources to go out and buy books and do that sort of thing? Or is it for the parent actually that already reads to their kids, like myself and Candace most likely, and most of the people in this room, if they've got kids, in which case you're actually providing a tool to track and, you know, in my case, probably engage me with the library more than I am right now, knowing that those resources are there. So I think picking where you need to be is really important here, because they're two very different problems.
Right, and I think by going through public libraries, you're already targeting people who have library cards, right? So you're giving them the best benefits of the tool, whereas anyone who doesn't have a library card won't necessarily even care enough about this to use it.
Just a quick comment on that, though. If you were doing that, a great way for the library to get that engagement is you don't actually have to target people with the library cards. You could target people that read to their kids and want to track some of that information, so that there's, you know, some parents obsess over this stuff. And, I actually want to know if I've read that book 500 times or 25 times, or that I've got the right stuff, and then guide them to the library through that with partnerships and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and so the website, like we said, would still have all the information for parents to use, and you could still make a profile.
Yeah, I think part of the problem in some cases, and I'm making an assumption here, people don't realize all the benefits of reading, right? We all kind of intuitively know it, but there's not all those metrics. And I remember when I just had my little guy, a good friend who's a teacher, came in and said, you're supposed to read 10 books a day, even if he's 2 weeks old. And I never heard that. And I read a fair bit, but you know, just the benefits of reading and developing the love of reading, I think if you can use it almost as an acquisition tool for the library, would be really interesting.
Just one last. When you talk about targeting 1,000 and giving you $250,000 in revenue, it's a very nice app, but that's not a lot in the end, and it's a lot of libraries. So I'm just wondering if you did anything around price sensitivity, because I think for large library systems, $2,500 is probably very much on the low side.
We did speak with the manager of eResource Budget at a large library, and she obviously liked the price we were offering, and we will need to do some more research around that.
So next up we have Make Library, and right after that, can I guess? Project underscore. Can I have project underscore also come up for tech check?
All right. Hi, everybody. We are Maker Library, and we are making it easier to transform the way that people use their library. So, first of all, we did a few different surveys, and one included surveying librarians to see if they liked the idea of making a makerspace within their own library, and at least half of them liked the idea but needed more information, and some already were in the process of doing so or had already established a makerspace. And the major challenge that was expected by the people that were interested in establishing a makerspace were primarily budget and also space, lack of demand, and staff expertise, and also lack of support. And just a note, the lack of demand based on our patron survey, so the general community that would use these spaces, that's absolutely not the case. The demand is absolutely overwhelming.
So our solution is to provide a collaborative network for what we call the maker champions, so the champions of the makerspace, either within the library or within the outside community, to reduce the technical, social, and financial barriers associated with establishing those makerspaces, and to be able to run a successful one long term for their own library. So we have a short video of just a validation segment. And the audio isn't working. But basically, so this is a mentor. Oh, we're getting it.
And a cost-effective information in one. Absolutely. I think having one place to find different types of programming, different space usages with images, videos from people with curriculum, and a host of that kind of information in one place would be great. Great resource for anywhere from a large media center to like a smaller makerspace.
So really, for people that are in this situation, they want that collective set of resources that have been established. You may recognize that fabulous mentor from that has been helping you out. But now we want to kind of go into how Maker Library works to address that problem based on the issues that we were confronted with.
Hi everyone. So we navigate to our site, which is a online web network, a network of profiles that different libraries would put up for their maker spaces or their planned maker spaces. So there's a few different key features of the site that I'd like to draw attention to. One of the first ones up at the top is a specialized search. So this search, you would search different metrics such as the space, the square footage of the makerspace, the target user, kids, adults, the budget of the makerspace, or different metrics that you can use. When you find your profile, for instance, here we have a Brantford Public Library profile. You'd see some key makerspace metrics at the top. So if you were another library trying to get information about how to create your makerspace, you'd want to find inspiration and resources for makerspaces that fit the same kind of constraints that you have. So you'd want to make sure you match those metrics. We also have makerspace offerings sections. So these would be the different modules or programs or equipment offered by the makerspace, as well as a wish list of potential modules that you could offer in the future. So, sorry if we can go back 1 minute. There's also a section about a resource repository. So here we could find PDFs, videos, or other resources that could be used, such as successful funding proposals for makerspaces that other librarians could use to potentially establish their own makerspaces more successfully. So as you can see, we've been surfing around the site for a bit, and we can find, this is a example of a project module with some more information about that module, and this would all be searchable from other libraries trying to find inspiration on how to set these kind of things up.
Okay, so now that we know kind of how we choose to tackle this problem to connect the libraries and the resources, just in terms of being able to acquire these users, so first we're targeting those maker champions, which consist of basically the innovators in the branches and in the external spaces, and those people can be found at a lot of, like, many different levels based on our survey of the library structure. And to acquire those users, we can use the CLA/LA mailing lists from professional conferences, online publishing and articles, and social media.
So we're welcome to questions. Welcome to questions. Any questions that may have to do with our slides?
Perhaps you'd like to tell us about your revenue model.
So our revenue model, first we have two kind of phases planned for the site. So the first phase would be based on special interest funds and grants, such as different vendor sponsorship packages with an ethical sponsorship policy, obviously, to remove bias and things like that. Monetizing the mailing list, but just the libraries that are interested in makerspaces and in these products. And in the future, based on phase 2 features that we could add, such as allowing the community to crowdfund different wish list modules, taking a cut of that crowdfunded revenue as well. So those are our potential options for revenue at this point.
How do you look to compete, or how do you think the libraries look to compete with just general makerspaces? It's kind of a different space to be in, highly specialized, different staff needs, all those sorts of things. So it's feels like a bit of a stretch to get the libraries to go in this direction. So I want to, have you done any research in that regard?
So I work at MakerKids, and we already collaborate with all the libraries who want this in their spaces and help with educating the educators and that kind of thing. But to reach out is difficult. But in terms of, do you mean like who is being competing for our business, or you mean like?
Yeah, it might just not be that clear to me exactly where you guys fit into this puzzle, but I'm zeroing in on the libraries themselves getting into the maker space. I can see the partnership opportunities, all of that, but
yeah, exactly. The demand is so overwhelming. So within Toronto, we actually sent to validate our product at the Toronto Reference Library, where they have 3D printers, and we could barely even talk to the person running the event. There was such an overwhelming response. We actually get overflow from library programs at MakerKids for people that are just trying to sign up for 3D printing workshops and that kind of thing. So the more the better, in my opinion. There's room for all of us, and there's all sorts of types of makerspaces, and we want to have everyone on board.
So this looks great for library to library. This is a softball. Have you considered library to community?
We most certainly have. So, should we talk? Yes, we did. So absolutely, that's super critical and part of our later stage rollout. So initially we want to do library to library connections and library to established makerspace connections, but ultimately we want to be able to then connect that community to your patrons. So to have people be able to come online and check out the maker activities that are going on around you, see what other libraries are doing, and also to be able to review and endorse specific programs at your own library, request certain things. We mentioned crowdfunding opportunities, so at that stage you could request a specific material and then crowdfund for it. So that has potential limitations with the larger libraries, but for small branches, I feel like that is an amazing opportunity for getting the patrons involved. It's going to be a positive feedback loop of people wanting stuff, people hearing about it and just coming in and wanting more. So that's what we hope for anyway. Thank you very much. And thanks to our amazing team.
Next up, we have Project Underscore.
Okay. Project Underscore began almost a day or two ago with the idea of our challenge of smaller communities may not be able to preserve information such as oral history, artifacts, and this may be due to technical, financial, or geographical limitations. Libraries understand the value of these unique local histories, and due to a lack of funding, they may not have the resources to help the community save them. If this information isn't collected, it could be very well lost forever. Okay. Our proposed solution, we aim to turn this gap into a system of mutual value. We want to create a tool that allows local communities to create catalogs and culturally relevant data to be shared with libraries who can then help to maintain them. So our effect hypothesis, this tool should empower the communities and the libraries to build richer collections, resulting in a shared sense of ownership. The strategy for our tool is portability, easy data entry, and an easy exchange of data from the community and to the library.
All right, so how the solution works. Users catalog data on mobile clients, and this is sent to our central database. Libraries are notified, and then updates occur, and they're encouraged to sync to their catalogs. So we just did a screen flow here. Here's the introduction for it. You have the options of doing a scan, input, or search. And we're using OCR technology, so in this case we're going to take a picture of a book, and that's going to translate into your text that you'd be translating into your markup record. We also want to make sure that we're able to cover certain things like spelling errors. So once you're ready to go and it's all corrected, you can begin putting your information into your record. So you can select from the tabs above, and then everything ends up actually being color-coded. So as you can see above, we have a couple different colors going. And yeah, you can also do some changes as you're going. And here's your completed markup record that's ready to be shipped off and available to use for the libraries. All right, so in terms of funding, we didn't really feel like a for-profit model would be working for something that was supposed to be community building. So we want to work with partners such as local nationalizers, historical societies. We would be raising funding focused on the issues of preservation of local culture and the goals to grow the operation to the national level. As far as project status, we had a slow start. We were pivoting quite a bit. So we're really at a validation phase at this point. Our community is interested in creating their own catalogs. We don't necessarily know that. Our library is interested in what the public catalogs would actually do for them. Don't know that as well. There's going to be a lot of integration issues. I'm not sure 100% that anybody would be able to produce a markup record. So we'd have to figure out a way of translating between the two. There's a lot of quality concerns with user-generated content and metadata, and we need to do more competitive analysis. We really only found one competitor, but I have a lurking feeling that there's probably more. And we also, at this point, really have to build a working prototype, because there's going to be a lot of UX limitations in terms of the OCR technology. And as far as assembling a team, we're looking for a mobile developer who's good at computer vision, voice recognition, and can work with images. We need a back-end developer to help us create an accessible database to store all of the data. Small design team, probably UX designer, UI designer, a librarian with a lot of knowledge about metadata formats, and a business developer help us get those contacts with those libraries and small communities in need. And then a marketing strategist to help us boost funds and raise additional money. And yeah, that is all.
And I'm sure our fabulous judges have some great questions to ask.
Well, I would not go that far. So this is really interesting. There are other efforts underway, or at least contemplated. The Digital Public Library of America has something very similar to this in mind. I don't think they've gotten to the point. So if you're interested in that, you should look at their Federal Communications Commission's filing. So FCC, DPLA, it is a project to enable local libraries to scan, for people to scan and put into the local library. You are planning on putting it into a centralized, also you might want to look at other formats other than MARC, sorry librarians, but maybe Dublin Core or something simpler. What's going to happen to your database? Who uses it? Okay,
I chose MARC because it's what's being used now. If we were to implement this, I understand Dublin Core, MODS, METS, RDA are the way everything's going, but I wanted something that, you know, libraries out in the boondocks where I live, they're not aware of RDA yet. They haven't had any trainings, so. That's
okay,
why
so I'll leave the metadata format to the side. What happens to, so you have a nice database of stuff scanned in locally. What happens to that database? How open is it? What do you do about copyrighted stuff that gets uploaded and porn that gets uploaded and all the rest of it? How do you manage that database? What good do we get out of it?
The database, the idea was to create a archive, and so it would go in, I believe the idea we had was we would keep an untouched copy, and then that the library would have a copy from their community, and the community members would then go in to the web interface that we would set up and be able to socially tag images or books, or maybe it's an old copy of a book that's out of print and it's just a cover of it, and someone would say, well, I love this book as a child, and kind of give the community viewpoint on their history and the objects that they have in the system. And another idea was that it would just provide another data point for a library to make a purchasing decision. If they know, okay, well, it seems like a lot of our users who are signed up for the service, they're not getting through our means books or ebooks, but somewhere they're getting them, and this is where they're reading. And perhaps maybe if we made our collections better publicized, they would come to us. As far as copyright, yeah, as far as copyright and all that fun things, we hadn't gotten to that point because we ran out of time.
Okay, thank you. We're just going to literally, I just want everyone to kind of stand up in your seats. We're doing a 1-minute stretch break because we're a little bit past the halfway. Exactly. Stretch. Imagine if you had a fidget underneath you. Okay, and we are going to start again in 30 seconds. Fifteen, 14, 13. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start just because we have a deadline in terms of having to get out of the building. So I want to make sure that we keep moving. So our next fabulous team is Sinewave.
Hello, we are the team previously known as Gesture UI. So we're here to talk to you about Sinewave. So I'll just tell you a little bit about our team. As you can see, we are a cross-functional team with a mixed skill set. So we felt that this would be able, we would be able to produce a product that would be both functional and useful. We have some librarians on our team and some developers, so we thought that'd be a really good mix. So the problem that we're aiming to solve is twofold. So first of all, lots of patrons have difficulty finding specific resources, as well as being completely unaware of the actual services that a library offers. And as a result, librarians answer a lot of strictly directional questions. So we're trying to deal with this issue because librarians are specially trained and they can do, their time would be better spent on research consultations, special projects, things like that. So Sinewave offers a low-cost interactive digital signage that guides library patrons and liberates the librarians from answering the common questions. I know all of you academic librarians feel me. I am also an academic librarian, so we envision this as kind of a wayfinding tool that also has some discovery components in it, and we're hoping to solve what we think is a persistent problem for not only students but also librarians.
All right, this is the demonstration portion of the talk, the presentation, and for the purposes of the demonstration, I am going to pretend to be a first-year student. I don't have my backwards hat on, I'm sorry. But this is my first day at the library. I've just had my first lecture, and I'm going out of my head because the professor, the instructor mentioned something about go to the library and go to the course reserve section. I've only been to a public library before. This is my first time going to an academic library, so what do I know? And I'm a bit shy and also a bit independent, so I want to figure this out myself. So what happens when I walk in and I come across this interesting looking screen? Calibrating. This is a prototype. Oh, hi. Wow, funny things happen when I move my hand across it. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here is with gestures, and trying to calibrate here, what you can do is actually control the screen using hand movements. This is a web browser, not a specially written application. Using your webcam that we've attached, in this case it's attached to the laptop, but in other cases with the screen you would have a webcam attached to it, and this would be not a special webcam but something you could buy from Firefox, Futureshop, so a low-cost product. And with the combination of these two and a web application, you can offer a control, a web application that allows you to control the interface using gestures. So as you could demonstrate, as I'm trying to demonstrate here, obviously as a prototype, this is how you would control the application itself. So switching back to the application itself, so the presentation itself, in terms of the business model, we want to offer this in multiple ways. First of all, everything is open source. It's already on GitHub, and we understand the cost requirements for libraries, and we understand that's an issue. So we want to offer this for free. So if you're a library and you want to grab it, download it off the GitHub repository and DIY. Just install it, install a UI, and configure it, and this will work out of the box. If you would like some help, we also would like to offer Signs as a service. So there's a subscription model. You pay a monthly fee, not too exorbitant. And again, we host the Signs for you, we host a database for you, and we offer technical support. And along with that, we offer professional services in either case. So consultation, if you would like to install a full signage system, we do a consultation, we do an environmental assessment, and we prepare a product that's just for you. And also offer you training. Now, in terms of acquisition strategy, the way we want to proceed with this is first do some pilot projects. So we are looking for partners, Bibliocommons, I'm looking at you again, to maybe get this out in public libraries, academic libraries, Canada, US, to get a sense of what all these divergent needs are. And then we're also looking for excellent applications. And I'm actually going to say, Space Valet, we like your application, we'd like to speak to you. I think we could figure out what people need and cater to that specific need. And then you want to broaden out, go to conferences like OLA and find out what librarians think over there, and also make use of advertising like Google AdWords and so on. Help us spread SignWave, please. So if you're a librarian and you think this could be a useful product, please look at our Twitter feed, check out the demo, and go to GitHub, download our code, and try it for yourself. Thank you very much.
Now, time for questions from our judges.
My first question, is this on? Yeah. My first question is really kind of similar to one I asked the bike project. I don't see this being limited to the library space. In fact, the library space tends to look like it's kind of a limiting factor as far as business models are concerned and creating larger sustainable businesses. So, providing this type of information to people, whether it's in events, inside office buildings, whatever that might be. Have you thought about that
and
application
it's
as
very
well?
funny you mentioned that. When we were filling out the team survey yesterday to prepare for this presentation, the sector question came up, and we had a good 10 to 15 minute discussion about how this can go beyond just the library realm. All of us are associated and attached to libraries in one way or the other, and we see a need that's been identified and present, but we know marketing, advertisement, business directories, anywhere else. So it's really the underlying system. So the free part would be the thing that anybody could take and adapt to any environment. And I think then to do the assessment and figuring out the environmental assessment, that's where we look at the actual interested party, and whether it's a library or not a library, another type of company, we cater to their particular needs and offer the solution to them. So you're absolutely right. This
So
is way beyond.
I guess that's a comment to everyone. It's great to start off from the perspective of a problem set in a particular industry, but don't let that be a limiting factor, because often it can take you somewhere else. But I'll ask a quick second question here, because I don't understand the reason for the wave technology inside this, but that's probably because you didn't describe exactly kind of where these things would sit to me it's more touch screen technology, so you don't have all the challenges you get with the Wave technology, but maybe these are up high and they're in different spots. So describe that a little bit
Sure,
more, please.
absolutely. So this is intended to be in a public space. So we're targeting digital signage, and that is a key operative word here. Digital signage meaning either something that's overhead or something that you might find while a reference librarian has stepped away, but you're at the desk and there's a monitor sitting there right there for you. And that question about why touch and why not touch and why gesture, I think cost comes into it. We've done some market research, and we know a large touchscreen, like an iPad, which is 10 inches, will cost you $700. And if you want a nice and nicely functional touchscreen that is larger than that, will take the price to exorbitant range. So we want to offer a solution. And again, we're starting with the library, and obviously the company can grow to cater to other markets, but we understand the cost issue. And I think this is a very cost-effective and solution there. But with that in mind, our UI is actually designed to be just as touch-friendly as it is wave-friendly. So if you have a touchscreen and if you can afford to pay for a touchscreen that's that large, all those actions I was carrying out could easily happen while touching the screen. So we do think that it would be part of our thing. And then we kind of laid out this plan where our company could eventually offer takeaway support, so Bluetooth or QR code scanning, where there will be a companion app and allow you to take information with you. So I think kind of that is on the spectrum. The first step is really getting this low cost system out to address this pressing need that we've identified.
So, super cool demo. If this is Shark Tank, I'm about to become Mr. Wonderful. Sorry. This is a kiosk app with a with a gesture UI in front of it. The gesture UI that you're using, admirably, is, I believe, an open source package. So where's the added value in this? Why can't anybody who has a library kiosk, or any company that wants to do a kiosk app, just put a gesture in front of it?
I will, if you don't mind, a slight technical foray here. The technology underpinning this entire thing is WebRTC. It is pretty new technology, but it has been around for about 2 years, and there has not been a single product in those 2 years that has addressed this particular need. So the question of why not somebody, why not us be the first ones, right? So that is our sort of angle there. And
if you're going to build a business and get investors, they're going to want to know what's defensible. So if you could go out in the market, prove that this is great with a fantastic product, and if there's nothing defensible in it, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's my question.
I absolutely agree, and I think that's where we have to be reactive and offer the value adds, which is expertise, support. SaaS is a very important component there. So we offer a package thing where we minimize the pain for you to actually install and get this running in your environment. And I think those will be the certain key elements that hopefully put us and make us a presence that isn't easily, overturned.
Just last comment about that, because to the previous point around touchscreen versus the gesture controls, just be careful on the UX. You need to do a lot of research on that. Imagine people sitting, 10 feet away from a screen that is shared by other people. They're kind of, if you're that first year student, you're using that example, you're even more embarrassed to now show everybody kind of the questions that you're asking. So just be careful. There's a lot of user research to go into that around the UX.
You are absolutely correct, and we are aware of that. And you know what? One of our prospective future plan in this company would be looking into Connect and seeing how well that takes off. We know version 2 is coming out this year, and hopefully this dovetails with that, an expected rise in popularity of that product. We know the Wii is getting extremely popular already, so people are starting to become comfortable with jumping around. So, sort of piggyback on that nature, sort of that's developing in people, I think we were kind of ripe. At that moment is ripe for us to jump into that market, I think.
Great. So next up we have Hub. And while they are about to begin, can I get Pixelbook up for Tech Check?
So libraries have heard the call. We know, we've heard over and over again, if libraries are going to, and the term is not stay relevant, because we're absolutely still relevant and we know it, but if libraries are going to be able to convince others of our relevance, we need to get out into the community. We need to tell our stories, and we need to connect. Your community matters, and you won't find it sitting in your branch. Just over a year ago, my position did not exist. Whoop. So, I'm a community librarian. My entire job is to get out into the community and make those connections. So I'm constantly meeting new people, and I'm meeting people who are doing great things in my city. But how do I, one person, connect those people back to the library? And how do I get them in touch with the people who really need to know about them, our community members? Hub, whatever you're into, wherever you are. So Hub connects library users with community resources they didn't even know existed and wouldn't have known to look for. We find people where they are and where they're looking, the library catalog, and we take their search for information a step further by pulling up real-life results. So alongside your search for gardening books, you're going to find a listing for a nearby community garden. As far as the impact on libraries, no more LibGuides gathering e-dust deep in your website, forgotten by staff and unused by patrons. Hub is a collaborative, community-driven database of local organizations and resources. It really positions the library as a community hub, which is something we've been talking about for a long time. So one of the librarians we consulted when we were talking about this idea said, we talk the talk of being a community hub, but this would help us walk the walk. As far as customer validation, just this morning, the Toronto Star published an article that identified the need for exactly this product, an online resource that helps people connect to what's happening in their communities. So for data, we surveyed librarians, library patrons, and community organizations to see whether they would be interested in this resource. Their responses were clearly positive, so 51 out of 55 librarians we surveyed would love to see this resource in their library. 22 out of 25 library patrons were interested in seeing these kinds of resources. And 8 out of 10 community organizations we surveyed were interested in being included in a listing like this. So we are going to check out the demo. So if you are following along on a laptop, you can go to libhub.co. So follow to the demo. So this is a prototype based on the TPL catalog. And say you're interested in information on entrepreneurship. You do your research, or you do your search, and you get your typical results of books, movies, audiobooks, the usual. But on the other side, we have our LibHub JavaScript widget, pulling from our central database of organizations and personalized as needed by TPL. So let's follow the link for Venture Lab. So Venture Lab is a nearby center dedicated to helping entrepreneurs realize their ideas. You'll find a description of who they are, what they do, and contact information. Categories are standardized by Hub with input from our communities, and categories include the more standard subjects, but we've also integrated something a bit different, so life events, and this is in direct response to customer feedback that identified things like finding a mentor as an element that matters to our patrons and has a direct impact on connecting them to the best resources. So I am going to hand things over to Dawson, who is going to talk about the business side of things.
Thanks. Okay, so Hub has a small staff that works with all sectors of the library community. Hub would build a steering committee made of decision makers from partner libraries, so the partners own it and make the decisions. Our customers are libraries in general, but the rollout begins in a pilot way with Ontario Public Libraries. Hub would secure a host library where it could live to develop the service, and the overhead is already included in our budget. Hub staff coordinate the service, make it run properly, train staff, and develop support tools. So key partners are public libraries, community organizations, and potential funding bodies. And Hub is the direct distribution channel for the public library community. So the cost structure would look like this. Our budget for year one is $130,000. So Hub would operate on a cost recovery model. The librarians in the room, of course, understand what it's like to juggle budget line items to make hay with very little. So in order to get startup capital, ideally Hub would partner with provincial, municipal, and federal levels. If Hub doesn't manage to secure funding partners, it would go to the partner collaborative cost recovery model. Libraries of different sizes pay different rates based on their population served. So by year 3, with an emphasis on partner recruitment, with just a 25% increase in they would save 50% of their costs.
We'll turn it over to the judges.
Well done. I guess I'm struggling with the business model there, but I think you were starting to say you're looking to operate this as a nonprofit ultimately, and that's the goal. Just can you clarify that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
That's it? Yeah, yes.
That's right.
If the answer is yes, okay. Okay, that was my question, really.
So would you crowdsource some of the data? How would you kind of build all those links and identify the partners and make sure the partners are appropriate partners? I mean, you're going to have a lot of different levels of data.
So we already know that there are organizations out there that are building websites that are directories. So 211 Ontario exists. There's a group nationwide that collects organizations in this sort of way, community organizations that help people. But nobody knows these websites exist. So this would be bringing it into the point of service. The additional bonus factor is that librarians would be able to customize what appears on their widget, on their website, and from this directory, and they'd be able to add their own if there's local branches, local stuff that isn't on the main directory. They could add them in themselves with the certain metadata fields so it would appear properly.
Yeah, our expectation is that the community organizations that are a little bit more grassroots and a little bit more local would work with their partner libraries to add themselves in. We would be the ones to kind of vet alongside the libraries, so it would be really a collaborative model, and make sure that that information is all relevant to the people in the communities.
Did you think about an opt-in email program for people interested in this in their community?
So the big challenge with this sort of thing is we're trying to get the people who don't know they need it. So the person who's looking for entrepreneurship only came into the library expecting to find books or maybe video. And we want to say, here is something that is out there. So the kind of people who would sign up for a mailing list might be the kind of people who would know that they should reach out to their public library to find organizations, or who would know Venture Lab exists or would do that.
I'm not sure I agree in that you want people who want to be involved in their community, and what you're bringing is the right place at the right time, the events that exist in the community. I'm just not sure if I'm searching for a book on the library I'm necessarily interested in.
The people that we talked to were definitely interested in seeing that kind of result come up, as long as it did not kind of interfere with the resources that they were accessing. And so I think the way we've designed it has made it really kind of an add-on service. Yeah.
One extension, did you consider events offered by these as an extension of that?
We have considered events. We've considered it from a couple of perspectives, and that's something we'd really like to develop because it's something people would like to see. Obviously, the more you get into the more specific events, the more you have to make sure that things are lining up correctly, and it's a lot more work for somebody. Probably us, but another thing we looked at was the potential to turn that into an added value feature. So potentially organizations would be able to highlight their events if they add it in as a potential revenue stream.
Nice job. So next up we have Pixelbook, and next on deck, can I get Free the Books?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Mirna. I want to thank you all for being here, and today we'll be presenting Pixelbook. Hope you can. Okay. Well, in the meantime, oh, we're here. Okay. All right. So before I do present Pixelbook, I'd like to introduce you all to Robbie. Robbie's my 11-year-old cousin. He's in grade 5. He loves reading, he loves playing outside, and he loves taking selfies of himself with my iPad. And Robbie represents millions of kids that present the change in the habit and behavior in children and learning. And what we found out in terms of libraries, that library circulation in text is decreasing, whereas online and e-learning programs have been increasing drastically. So to give you some numbers for that, this is from the trends of the last 10 years. Sorry. There has been a 35 decrease in in-library use, whereas there is an increase of 52% in virtual visits and wireless use, which shows that this is why we're presenting Pixelbook. And Pixelbook aims to revolutionize the library experience. And we do that in a very simple way by personalizing the discovery interest for students through their learning experience, through their interest and age. And we also offer a very easy template for educators as well as librarians to create curated content from information that they have licensed in their libraries today. Also, we create a very immersive experience for kids that's not only text, but it's also auditory and visual. So I'm going to pass the mic to Faisal so he can show you how this demo works.
Okay, so in order for this to work, in order for you guys to understand what this is, I need you to imagine that you are a librarian and that Robbie came to you along with his mom in order to register for Pixelbook. So you start by adding a student. You fill in all the details about Robbie. You choose Robbie's interest. We know that Robbie is interested in history, arts, and space. And then what Robbie gets is a list of adventures tailored for him, tailored for his learning. Not only that, but when Robbie clicks on any of these adventures, he goes on to learn the actual immersive experience. Keep in mind that this is for demo purposes. Robbie wouldn't actually be reading this. Okay, so now going back to the presentation.
Anyway. So does this actually work? Do kids actually learn that way? Do parents care about this? This weekend we prototyped, surveyed parents, librarians, kids, and interviewed and tested our product. And what we found is 70% of households that have kids under the age of 12 already have a tablet in-house. And 90% of those parents actually encourage the educational use for their children. And in terms of the kids, we found that 57% of those kids love to play games, educational games on their apps. So what we aim to do is solve the parent for the problem who's complaining about their kid spending way too much time on video games and creating a solution for them to be able to have an immersive experience for their kids, and for librarians to create resources for them to be able to curate the content that they already have in their libraries and kind of packages it in an innovative way for our kids to be able to do them. So to kind of give you the numbers on how many libraries are in Canada, there's almost 3,000 libraries in Canada, 18 million visits yearly, and in terms of schools, there's around 5,000 schools and 2.4 million students. And so we aim to target those public libraries, private libraries, school boards, and private education companies and connect with them about using our service. Our business model is to have a yearly licensing fee and also a subscription model that these educators and librarians can use for our services and the templates that we've created for them. So we've been really lucky this weekend to validate this idea with a company that's a supplemental education company here in Toronto, and they have 36 locations across Canada. And they liked our model so much, and they are investing in these types of activities for their students and parents. And they actually gave us a check for $2,000 in terms in queue if we can get this done in the next year, because they already have lots of students that are interested in that personalization path for education. So what about libraries? For libraries, we know through our research this weekend that 75% of that funding goes to staffing. So we know that there's people on board directing people and people coming. Librarians on board that are directing. So we want to give them tools to empower them. Whereas we also found out that 2%, thank you.
$2,000, that's nice. So time for the judges.
Well, Robbie's 12, so it's getting time to mash this up with sticky bookmarks.
Great job, amazing
Thank
job
you.
getting out there and getting people to pay real money. That's amazing.
Thanks.
I feel a little bit confused about the technology itself as far as how that's utilized, integrated into the library in itself. Like you talked about templates. Can you just describe that in a bit more detail?
Mm-hmm. So what we found out that there's already in the library there are videos and photos and images that and text in the library that's used and licensed to the library, but it's in dispersed different areas. So we're creating this templated version for different units to be able to put them into a context. So a student coming in to learn about history, either his teacher at school, which is already, we know that already teachers are doing that and we've tested that, or the librarian can kind of create this information. We edit it and kind of send it back into the system to create relevant content. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, sort of. Just a quick follow-on to that. So are you selling content or are you selling the tools? And if you're selling the tools, have you done any of the validation to understand if the people in those libraries and other places can actually work with those tools realistically?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to hand over this piece to Basil.
Okay, so great question. What happens is that there are already tools that do something similar, only they don't have the content and they are not tailored to little kids, especially students. What we're creating is a tool that is tailored for teachers, that is similar to tools that they're currently using, so it's not a different experience for them. We have spoken to a couple of parents, so even they will be able to create these little modules and units for their own kids. But mainly we're targeting librarians, which are already using stuff like Prezi, and it'll be along the same lines of Prezi and other presentation tools in order to be able to translate books into actual immersive experiences for little kids.
Can you talk about the scalability of the work that's involved in actually creating the content?
Yeah. So the whole concept is teachers and educators, parents, as well as librarians are able to create. We give them the power to create those information and publish it. Of course, we access that information, make sure that it's, of course, acceptable, and send it back to the system. So you have a repository of information. So this is how the content creation piece, so we don't have to sit and go through. And exactly, a toolkit. And what's great about it is that it's relevant. So we will never be able to have the resources, unless we're really rich, to get history teachers to create this content. But a grade 7 teacher, my dad, actually does that. He sends me like YouTube videos and different things and puts them in presentations for his students.
So one of the skills that kids need to learn is how to discover on their own as well and research on their own. How are you gonna, it seems like you're giving it all to them, you're giving them all on a tray, and here it is, and you don't need to learn anything else. How are you going to teach them to research and discover as
Absolutely. So in the future, it was too big for this project, but in the future we wanted to create different paths. So it's not so much by creating specific kind of remove the context of information, but create specific paths. So I'll give you an example. Exploration. So we broke it down from a user experience standpoint into interests, doing a project, let's say, so grade requirements, or actual exploration and investigation, because often kids are given a snippet of information and they don't expand further. So we also want to really be careful about that, because that is the point of a library, and we've created different paths that we couldn't show you here because it's kind of a little bit more, but we created different paths of, let's say you're going into the library to explore or to investigate, and make it fun for them to be able to explore in that way as well. So I think it's a design navigation type thing.
So the reason you're not just competing with Prezi is that you're not just providing tools, but you're providing templates that you
Yes.
think will be okay. Thank you. That helps.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
So we're down to our last two. And we're going to hear from Free the Books now, and we'll have the Brook list line up for Tech Check.
Good to go. Hi, everyone. My name is Warren Hutton.
And I'm Andre Majstrovich.
And we are
Free the Books.
We're a movement to build communities through book boxes. Right here is our new friend. His name is Sean. He actually lives nearby. He owns a book box that was built by littlefreelibraries.org. They build book boxes and send them out, or materials to build them within your community. These things are popping up all in parks and actually on front lawns of big community members.
Yes. So what Sean does is he puts this book box up, puts books in it, and expects his local community members to go daily, weekly, whatever, go to the book, take a book out, leave a book. It's on a trust system. When we went to an area in Toronto, we surveyed and asked Sean, was he aware that in the 2-kilometer radius around his house and around his book box, there were 2 other book boxes just like his? He wasn't aware. When we asked him would he be interested in communicating with the other book box owners and the other members of his community, he was very adamant about doing so.
So clearly, we've got a problem here. There's a lack of connectivity between the leaders.
People who own the book box.
And our readers, the people that interact, that take books and leave books.
Our goal is to create a viral grassroots movement that impacts the community, promotes literacy, and engages its members through these book boxes.
So we're going to host this movement online on our website. This is our basic mock-up. I'm going to actually walk you through quickly. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to just talk about it. And that. Okay. There we go. So we're back, not in the view we want. Sorry, guys. Okay, so when you come, so let's say you're Sean. You come to the site, you own a box, you log in, you open up your personal page. It has your box there. It tells people a little bit about the history of the box, maybe 3 books that are in the box. There's no way of controlling what comes in and comes out. That's kind of the beauty of it. But it also allows people to share, comment, and explore new book boxes and connect with new people in the neighborhood.
So currently in Toronto there are 19 book boxes, and this is just the general outlay of them in the city. Extrapolating the information that we got from the littlefreelibrary.org website and its information, we were able to get a general growth curve expected globally, and hopefully that would also be seen in Toronto as well. And through this growth curve of the number of book boxes growing throughout the years in Toronto, we expect the number of interactions with the local community members and the book boxes to increase at the same way or the same rate.
So at this point in the Free the Books movement, we think that we're a non-for-profit. We're trying to just build up a community. We want to connect the people that are already active in this process. So what we've decided to do with our operations is just a very basic system, is that we deploy the website and then we use some guerrilla marketing. So we'll go out, meet all the book box owners, we'll talk to them, and we'll give them flyers or stickers to put on these books. So we're just trying to really increase awareness, and then we can actually measure and speak to this community and see what they're actually looking for.
Our current approach is in its infant stage, and it's just to get version 1.0 out, very lean approach, and the faster we can get this out and gain early adopters and filter feedback through the system, the greater the success we can have with this project.
stage that they're a problem. We may have to sell our house or want to sell our house in the next year or so. And you have to clear it out, right? And we've got these thousands of books.
So what we have here is a person we just found on the street who lives in these communities. He's aware of the book boxes. He knows the whole. He knows exactly what's going on with people booking and taking these out. He flat out said, if this was online, that'd be cool. There's no community whatsoever. Once again we asked him straight up, did you know there, in the 2-kilometer radius, there are 4 of these communities? He said, no, I didn't know that. We asked him, pretty much there are 15,000 currently in the world that are on an online registry in 52 countries. We want to tap in. Nobody knows each other. We want to make it happen.
So, join the movement.
Now questions from our judges.
So I'm just going to comment on presentation, because not when you're pitching to people, they may not always be really in-depthly aware of the market you're addressing. So book boxes, I kind of saw them in my local paper, but it's always good to give a really short overview about what book boxes are. And I didn't, I'm not clear. There's many people who own them, and I'm still not clear what the problem is, because you kind of didn't give that grounding of
Okay.
where things were. So it's more a comment on presentation and making sure that you incorporate that, and don't expect that your audience is an expert in the area you're talking about.
Of course, if anything, we'd like to reiterate what book boxes are. People build this little thing, they post it in an online registry. When you make the box, you post it to our website, freethebooks.co, and you would post what the first 3 books you put in that box is. And when in a perfect world, iOS, etc., we would have it so people would know what book is nearby. People would say, okay, I read this book. It's in great condition. Thank you very much. There would be readers and leaders, a big ecosystem worldwide. The thing is, this is already in place physically. We just want to link them up. 2 kilometers, no one knows each other.
We want to fill the gap. So Sean's initial intent with this was to put a book box out and give back to his community, but he isn't aware if the community is reacting to it. Sometimes he'll meet somebody by coincidence and it'll be a nice conversation piece, but there's no connection made and he's not aware of them returning or whatnot. So instead of just it being a box where people dispose their old books, this can also become a way for them to connect through these old books using the online presence that we're hoping to demonstrate as a way for them to comment, share, and explore their experience with the book in their community, and thus eventually being more intimate with each other.
Even not-for-profits need money to build things, to pay people. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Of course. Would you like to? Or what we would like to propose in some fashion, obviously, if someone would like to gift a book to another person, we would have Amazon purchase links. You would get a cut, or we would get a cut. That alone would be something. We can get grants, community events through the public library systems all over the world, and just sort of see where that goes. Admittedly, we don't really know much about the complete overview, and that's what this weekend's really all about, community and stuff.
I think a bit of a follow-on to Michelle's question, and it might just be because I don't know the space that well, but other than the discovery part, so I can find out where these are, does this need to be online at all, or is it kind of a lovely little offline thing that actually exists nicely without that? Like, I don't know what the communication between people that are already aware of this are actually having, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a place for them to communicate, and they need that, but I don't see it.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. We thought about that. Maybe there's some people that really just like not connecting, just going through that just single experience of grabbing a book and leaving a book. But after these guys talked to Sean and a couple of other book box owners, their keenness on getting to know other people that were doing it and actually connecting with people that are going to their front steps to exchange books, they thought there was some really cool potential there. And I think, like, right now, monetization is mainly just focused on connecting these people, seeing how they like to interact, and and I think, sorry.
What the free book library, what that site currently does is, I think it's $300 or $400 to $1,000 to physically build one, and then you could just post it. The issue is, all you do is post it to this online registry. There's no interaction after that.
So you're right when you say that maybe it is a nice little offline community, but without creating this online presence or this sense of online community, we wouldn't be aware even if there is or isn't. So you're right, maybe we deploy this and it doesn't fly because naturally people maybe wouldn't want to. Yeah, but at the moment our costs are low and it's a very grassroots operation.
Okay, last but certainly not least, we have Brooke List.
Hi. So, hi, I'm Michael.
I'm Thomas.
And we're presenting to you Brooke List. Now, the first thing we want to say is this isn't really a pitch of a product. We're trying to sort of make a problem aware to the community and present an opportunity, we think. Our original problem that we were talking about is when Thomas and I place holds on books, we place a lot of holds and then they all become available at the same time, and then you get like 20 books 2 months later and you can't actually read all those books. So it's massively wasteful, and we realized that this is a problem for us, but we wanted to see sort of what is the reason this is happening. And it turns out people have actually done some research on this. There's a study that was done at the Seattle Public Library that looks at this problem, and it turns out there's a very direct relationship between the ratio between the number of copies a library has of an item and the number of holds there are on an item and the amount of time it takes for that item to become available. So, for example, if a library is maintaining a ratio of 5 holds for every item in the library, and you want to get the first 3 Harry Potter books, so you put holds on all 3 Harry Potter books at the same time, 80 days later, you're going to get all 3 Harry Potter books. It's a really direct relationship. So this is obviously a problem for us. But is it a problem for the libraries? And it sort of is. The Oakville Public Library, for example, has these 2 products. Films came out about a year apart, and you can see that the film that came out just this year, there are 210 holds on it. The film that came out a year ago, which would have been about as popular a year ago, there are only 30 holds despite having a similar number of copies. So the ratio here is about 3 to 1. The ratio here is about 20 to 1. So you can expect maybe this is going to take several months to arrive. This is going to take only a couple of weeks to arrive. The library could deal with this problem by getting more copies, but then once a year passes, they need to deal with getting rid of all the extra copies, otherwise they're stuck with them. So how much of a problem is this? Well, in Ontario, about $70 million is spent on libraries for maintenance and creation of collections. And in the US overall, it's about $1.25 billion. So if it were possible to even reduce that by a small amount, you could actually create an interesting business model. So this is an example of what we were thinking. This is the current model. So a product is released, it's popular, Oprah mentions it, it becomes super popular, holds increase, and at this peak point, that's where libraries need to think about how many books they need to order. And then it becomes less popular and they're stuck with all the books that they had at the beginning. Whereas if you manage to spread those holds over a longer period of time, you can avoid reaching that extreme peak and have fewer products that you can spread out over a longer period of time. So this is obviously advantageous to the library, but what does it mean for us? It means longer wait times. Is this a bad thing? Not necessarily. We did some research. We did a survey. The survey's real, that's not. The survey suggests that about 25% of the people we talked to feel overwhelmed by their reading list. 100% say that they have returned books without reading them because they've run out of time. And that's a massive waste of resources. 85% would welcome some sort of application that helped them manage their reading list. And 80% don't care so much if they get the exact book that they're looking for at exactly the time that they think they're going to get it. This is massive. This means that there's a great opportunity to reorder hold lists or create a recommendation engine that allows for books to be released in a smoother manner. So instead of getting these giant peaks and valleys where you have lots of books and no books and lots of books and no books, it gets smoothed out over a longer period of time. So what we've been doing is we're trying to build sort of a simulation library that we can run tests on and test search algorithms and various things in. And what we need is historical data from libraries so that we can look at these trends and see if what we think is happening is actually happening. And it would be wonderful if we could get community support from everyone, because we don't care so much if we get jobs out of this project. We just really want this problem to be solved. Thank you very much.
And our last round of questions.
So that was a great presentation of a problem and why it matters.
Thank you.
Really a great job. So how you have ideas about? Assume the data supports. How ideas for solving it?
Okay, there are a couple of ideas. One way you could solve this is by reshuffling hold lists, so that if people have a giant hold list, some items are easily available, some items are more difficult to get. The easier ones holds are placed earlier and become released, so you can stagger the total number of books out over a longer period of time. You could also have a recommendation engine that would give suggestions for other books that you could read while you're waiting for these books. This could be something that's placed on top of the existing ILS system, so that you don't need to necessarily rewire the cataloging system and the hold system, but rather have a service that places holds in an intelligent way so that you have a steady stream of books. That's what we're really thinking about.
So given that you're focused on the problem and it's unclear whether there are real solutions to this problem, and I guess it strikes me that what you have to do here is you actually have to change the user behavior and get the buy-in from the end user, the reader at the end of the day.
Totally.
Which case, again, like many things I've heard today, this doesn't need to be, if you were able to do that, this doesn't need to be limited to the library space, because you actually are changing the whole demand side of an industry, which Amazon would probably be pretty curious about that, or certainly the remaining brick and mortar bookstores out there that have to order tons of copies and hope that the demand is there. So interesting problem to keep looking at. Very, very tricky, I think, to get to a solution, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it is.
I just want to encourage you. I think it is a big problem, and in many ways, although it could be generalized, it is specific to public libraries. It might have been where it was Netflix's problem when they had fixed inventory, but they don't have fixed inventory now. Libraries still do. So it's a big problem. Keep plugging. We've got ideas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Big round of applause for all of our teams. Okay. Here's what's going to happen now. The judges and I were going to go and deliberate, and then we'll come back and tell you who won third, second, first, and the organizer's prize. While we're doing that, the teams are going to do team photos. So we're going to go into this back room. There's a set aside. Right, we got wave. You see the camera waving?
We have an 820 flight. Can we
if it makes sense, well, actually, we'll just do it. Like whichever team kind of gets there, and then the next one, and we'll keep rolling. let's find out who won. It is indeed, yeah. I think we've got everybody. I don't know if we have. Yeah. Okay, so bear with me for 1 minute before we do the announcements. Just because one of the things that's really important is it's not just what happens this weekend, but it's what happens after this weekend. And so I wanted to just do kind of a shout out for some of the opportunities that are both global and both local. You can organize. If you love this event, you can actually organize one of your own events. If you want to write about this or write about something else that's attached to EdTech and libraries, you can write for Startup Weekend EDU. If there's something that you want to share, you can send in feedback. Locally, you can sign up for Startup Digest. If you're more interested in the education side, there's a Startup Digest EDU that is global. But there's also a local Startup Digest Toronto that lists different events and opportunities that are in this region. If you're interested in EdTech, you can register for the EdSurge newsletter. And if you want to take a look and see what else is in the space, there's the EdSurge EdTech Index. There will be, so stay posted that you will see something in your inbox. We want to have another event for everyone who attended here, like a post weekend library event. And then also, if you want to stay in, again, kind of the local startup scene in general, there is a Facebook, Weekend Toronto Facebook group, so you can also join in for that. If anyone is really interested in an opportunity, Bibliocommons is right down the street and is always looking for fabulous, great people. If there are other kinds of shout outs, we are welcome to kind of, it's like the moment to say if you want to share anything that's about to happen or some opportunity. I hear one back there. That's great. Anyone else want to share an upcoming event? Oh, over in the corner? Yes.
I've got one. Computers and Libraries Conference in Washington, D.C. a week from today on Sunday evening has a games and gadget evening that is filled with librarians. So if you want to pitch your idea further, you might want to think about it.
I actually might be there. So it's about an hour from where I live. Yes, Matthew.
NASA Space Apps Toronto is happening in a couple of weeks over at the Ontario Science Centre. For everybody that's out here, I'm sure you'd all appreciate going to the Science Centre for a weekend, hacking together a bunch of challenges from NASA. Also, this coming weekend is basically beer and Post-its as a lead up to the event to team build. So check that out if you're interested.
Okay, another one here.
Also, one last thing, OpenIDEO, if anyone's familiar with it, how it works with human-centered design to redesign experiences for different challenges, and we're hosting a meetup in OCAD in the end of April. So anyone interested in human-centered design, please follow us on Twitter. Come reach out to me.
That's fabulous. Okay. One opportunity that is in your region, Startup Weekend has what's called a program that's called Next, and essentially it's kind of like what happens after this, and you have a company or an idea, and you want to kind of take the next steps. Chris, do you want to just say a word?
Yeah, we just launched Next a couple of weeks ago, running it in conjunction with the working group and Mars, hosting it at both our location and at Mars, kind of back and forth. Got great mentors. It's kind of a really in-depth, immersive way to get into the customer development process following kind of lean startup practices. So we actually had an amazing cohort of people or of companies come in. I think we had about 70 applications for 10, 15 spots, and apparently it's been as good as what they're seeing in the Valley. So kind of one of the top cohorts in internationally for that. So we're proud of it. It's going well, and there'll be more of those to follow. So if you get into this space and you want to do more, then look out for more on that.
Perfect. Great. Okay, this is what's going to happen after this. So after we announce all the winners, then we're going to do a big group photo, so we want to make sure everybody kind of sticks around for that. So now we're actually going to announce the prizes. We're going to start with the organizer's prize. Which one of the organizers would like to share that?
All right, so we were sort of tasked with throughout the weekend watching all of you work, and it was a great experience from our end, but we were trying to pick a team that basically sort of embodied the spirit of Startup Weekend. And while we saw lots of great things over the weekend, we want to, this particular team kind of had some early challenges. They lost a team member to sickness. They were missing some skills as a result, but they stuck with it. They kept reaching out via Twitter. They taught themselves some new skills, and they gave a very entertaining pitch, I thought. So they were the last pitch to go today. So if Brooke List, if you would come on up. We'll get your prize after.
Okay, thank you. And then we're going to have Chris share the number 3 and number 2.
All right, and since I've got the mic, I'm just going to use this opportunity to say a couple other things with my background in Startup Weekend and the fact that this is kind of a new event, not the EDU event, but the library focus. It's always amazing to see a completely new community come out, and to see that there were so many librarians, that's great, but also then give some constructive criticism, because hopefully you guys all got the bug and you'll want to do more of these things. So on the pitch side, I think probably 80%, maybe 90% of the pitches were all cut short. So that means you got to practice your pitch beforehand and make sure you're actually timing it so you do it in 5 minutes, because you don't want to lose out on your business model, or how many times do we have to ask what's your business model? So that's one bit of feedback I would give. The other is kind of really making it clear in terms of what problem you're solving and what your solution is. So I think it was really more on the presentation side, but from my perspective, fantastic to see a new community come together. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll do more of them. So I'll move on to, I'm gonna be presenting the 3rd place prize and the 2nd place prize, and to be honest, these ones were really close. So the one thing is not to be discouraged here if you're not in the top 3, because it's really more about the experience than anything else. But I will move on and say our number 3, and there's definitely work to be done here. Lots more clarification, but we think there's something there and some potential, and that's Raise a Reader. All right, and in 2nd spot, again, a tough one. I think there's lots more work to be done here, lots more around actually finding a sustainable business here, but the execution over the course of the weekend looked to be really strong. A lot was done, and a good presentation to kick off the entire presentations, and that was Space Valet.
And the first prize, as Chris and everyone has said, it was very tough. But this team did actually make it through their presentation. We didn't have to prompt for a business model. They had it well timed, and they did have a good business model on top of everything else, carefully thought out. But I think perhaps what stood out most of all was just the library impact piece and its potential. It was the Hub project.
So nice job all around. We're hoping, while they're doing their photos. So one, we want to do a big group photo before everybody leaves. And then there's going to be an after party that also has food and I believe free beer, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Firkin? Do I have that right? Yep, Firkin. And which one? King and Spadina. So we're gonna. So after we do this group photo, we're then gonna head over there for anyone who is interested in continuing to celebrate. Thanks, everybody. Woo-hoo!